No. Well,
here
I didn't go in the pit.
Okay.
But I'll show you where it is. It's no big thing. By any means.
Okay.
Radio Coppa Shell firstly.
Coppa Shell.
Thank you.
AM.
Thank you for your comms.
What a kindness. So, where would it be? Preparation for the live. When I asked Andrea, but where are they? Buongiorno. He's just still finishing his cigarette. Dave is just finishing his cigarette.
Right.
But he'll be here in any second, and then I will ask him to sit down.
Yo. Loud and clear, Franco.
Loud and clear.
Misano. Here we are then for round 2 of the Ferrari Challenge in 2023. About to get the Coppa Shell cars out on grid for their qualifying, or out on track for their qualifying, the track being the Misano World Circuit Marco Simoncelli. And the sheer volume of cars that are competing in Coppa Shell means that we split the qualifying in 2. We have the Coppa Shell cars out first of all, and then the Coppa Shell AM cars that will be taking to the track. So a little bit of wind blowing around at the moment, but it's a nice warm dry day here on the Adriatic coast, and this is precisely where we are. We invite you please to follow us on @Ferrari Races and be part of the experience across this weekend as we put round 2 of our 2023 Ferrari Challenge season in the book. Preparations undergoing in the pit lane. It's a hive of activity, and there is some of the beautiful wildlife and fauna that surrounds this track. Air temperature currently 14 degrees. The track temperature is 17 degrees. We have a little bit of wind, 5 kilometers per hour, that is blowing about the place at the moment. And there you can see, just to the right-hand side is the paddock area, and in fairness, that's the camera that's probably situated closest to our TV compound. Roland Hurtner then, in the number 190 car, will be out on track, though that is the Eric Chung car of the fine veteran, if I dare say, racer, as Fons Skeltermar goes through his warm-up procedure from Kessel Racing. There is Fons, who's about to head out on track and is paying homage to my oldest son with that badge there, which said Jacob, which was rather nice. Nico?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, Jacob. And yeah, welcome and good morning here from Misano. 50 years of history to this very circuit. Well, 50 years and a few months. It was opened in 1972, and it's one of those very, very, very few and select ones which have changed the course of racing, the direction in its lifetime, where once it went counterclockwise and now is being run clockwise. So that's a rarity.
Indeed so. Indeed so. It's an interesting track, isn't it? You and I walked the track last night, and you know, it's one which offers limited, if I may say, overtaking opportunities, and Manuela Gosner is one of those that during the course of the race, she may not need to do any overtaking because she may well put the car on P1 in terms of qualifying, which we're about to find out. But as we go into this, and that's the car of Willem van der Voort. I was speaking to Willem just a few moments ago as he was preparing, and funnily enough, his bank of tyres, Nico, were next to where we were speaking to him, and he says, I need to form a loving relationship with those black rubber tyres this weekend.
Yeah, definitely. As you already said, overtaking is not very easy. There is not that one prototypical overtaking spot on this circuit.
Prototypical. That's a word.
That's a word. And some. You don't have that very, very long straight with a narrow turn at the end of it. So that means that lining up the other driver for an overtake is not necessarily something that you do here. However, we've seen that it is possible on the track, and tire wear is always a topic. This circuit, especially with the last sector, that stadium section with the triple right-hander, that's where you can really see towards the end of the races when the tire goes off. You can lose 3-4 tenths in the matter of 3 corners. So tire preservation is really, really important. And 30 seconds from now, we will get underway in this qualification.
Just 30 seconds from now. Now, Well, as we did our track walk yesterday, what it revealed, of course, is the fact that we had the benefit of vaulting the safety armco because the pit exit here, when you leave the pits, you join actually just on the conclusion of turn number 3 as we look at John Dillon here, driving, of course, for Great Paul Nottingham and racing in the European Challenge. John, another experienced racer, and Peter Christensen. We can see in his final stages of preparation. Morning, Peter. Hope you're well. Had lots of good chats with Peter over the course of the last couple of seasons, and we can see the green light is on, Nico. The pit lane is open, and there will be a non-flurry of activity as they get their cars out on track or not.
Well, and we will hear, and you'll be able to hear the roar of the cars as they come past our commentary studio, which is located directly next to the pit exit. Indeed, we expect the drivers to bide their time a little bit. However, by virtue of this qualifying session in Coppa Shell and Shell AM being split into 2, that means rather than 30 minutes, you only get 20 minutes, and therefore don't wait too long.
No,
because time's running.
They will have their strategy. They will have decided what they're going to do as we look at the John Dillon car once again. And as I say, John Dillon, who's a UK-based racer, but racing in the European Challenge, as indeed he has done previously. And the Grey Paul Nottingham driver champing at the bit to get out here in Misano. While we have a moment in hand, I suppose that, as Nico said, as we celebrate some 50 years of the Misano circuit, not quite celebrating that amount of time, he's my partner in crime alongside me. And there you can see him in all his glory, bespectacled with his new jacket on, celebrating his birthday today. 72 years of age. You'd never believe it, would you? He looks so good for that amount of time. I'm jesting, of course, not 72. Congratulations. Happy birthday to your friend.
Thank you, my friend.
You said don't you dare do anything, and we thought within the realms of broadcast that we ought to recognise the fact. We're not normally self-indulgent in broadcast, but I thought we ought to do that and to wish him a happy birthday. So there we have it. Today is the day. And thank you, Franco. Thank you, Andrea, for making that happen. I knew you would. Willem van der Vorm then champing at the bit. I'm in so much trouble now. You won't believe it. But there we are. Happy birthday, friend.
Thank you. And
I can't tell you how much he does for us. And there's David Gostner, who equally does a lot for us in terms of always entertaining out there on the track. Had a nice chat with David last night, and he races, of course, for the MP racing team. MP standing for, not Member of Parliament in this context, but for Massimo Pepe, who is a lovely guy. Not very, very huge amounts of English, but nonetheless, always enjoyable to talk to him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I met David Gostner on a quick morning walk along the beachfront here in Misano or Riccione, or one of the many, many towns that dot or basically merge together to build this very famous holiday destination here on the Adriatic coast. And he was going through his fitness regime, and I was just going through my regime, whatever. But it was a nice morning conversation, and good to see him here in pit lane, and also good to see the 1-2-1 car of Peter Christensen, and some spectators already anticipating some action. Right now our timing screen is filled with peas, and that is not a vegetable in that case, but it means all the cars are still in pit lane.
Talking of peas, of which there is no relevance whatsoever, Christian Kinch, who I spent a lot of time with last night, or early yesterday evening. Christian is a wonderful driver, and just a really nice guy to talk to. And Christian was explaining how he has this invidious position now, Nico, where I think it's Theodore is one of his sons, and his daughter as well. They're very, very interested in racing, and he was kind of intimating that the time will come when they're in a racing car, and he didn't allude to the fact that he'll be making way for them, but that rather that they would be an addition to the Kinch Racing family, so they will be very, very welcome, of course. And pretty sure he said his daughter is here this weekend as well, so hello to you if you're watching the qualifying. So we continue our quest through all the cars at the moment. There's Roger Grols, who whilst I was talking to Christian Kinch and Tommy Lindroth and Björn Grossman, who is here this weekend as well, former Ferrari Challenge champion, of course, we were having quite a collective little get-together, Nico, and Roger came and joined us, munching into a packet of what looked like cheese and onion crisps at the time. And naturally, Roger, being the nice man that he is, immediately offered the packet to me, which I refused. But we had a really, and I need to really reinforce the fact that, you know, part of the attraction for the Ferrari Challenge is the fact that this, you know, camaraderie in the paddock. Now, of course, when the cars get out on track and the drivers get out on track and the crash helmet goes on, all that friendship and camaraderie is, I'm not going to say it's thrown away, but, you know, they become uber competitive. But it is such a lovely atmosphere. And if you've not been to a Ferrari Challenge round, I'd urge you to come and do that, because, you know, the drivers are so genuinely all lovely people, and they really embrace their spectators and fans, and you know, it's just a nice paddock to be in.
Oh, absolutely. And you say just the right way. The friendship doesn't go out the window, because there is still a very healthy respect.
Oh,
and
indeed.
When there is a coming together, generally, or almost in every instance, the drivers will go and actually find each other in the paddock afterwards and hug it out, and have a coffee or whatever beverage of choice they will have together. So that's really nice. And as you can see, we now have some track action. Christian Hördbiber was the first one out, and we can hear and see the cars filing past our commentary window. So with about 6 minutes done in this session, that basically is the signal for quite a few of the drivers and the teams to send out their 488 Challenge Evos on their quest to put in the best possible time and get in line for the grid later on. The way this works, obviously, the fastest lap time will determine where you start on the grid. As we said before, Coppa Shell and Coppa Shell AM take part in different qualifying sessions, and we will arrange the drivers by class. That means all the Shell drivers go to the front, the M drivers will go and line up behind them, obviously within their groups based on lap times. And Christian Hördbiber, we put the time on screen for you, not necessarily thinking this time will be the one to count, because the tires, certainly in this early morning hour where the tarmac is still pretty cold, will need more than one lap to get to perfect operating conditions. But it's the first time that we will have on our timing screen. Certainly as soon as Christian Hördbiber crosses the timing line, and he does that for the first sector at a 2:28.932. Don't read too much into that, but here we go.
Nice to see Christian Hördbiber on track. Well, it's nice, Nico, if I may say, to see a respected name, Emil Frey, who are involved in the Ferrari Challenge as well. So delighted to welcome them as a team this year. And Christian Hördbiber then at the wheel of the 183 car. Now, this is a really interesting turn. It's kind of a double apex, really. And we did very well around there last night on our feet. Incidentally, overtaken on the track walk once again by Axel Sardigan, who, may I say, was not on foot but on scooter. So you would expect him to overtake us, to be honest. But what a great guy he is, and jolly nice time we had with Axel out there on track, as always. Just one of life's born entertainers, Nico.
Oh yes, just like you.
Oh,
if we're being brutally honest.
Titty ye not, I fear not, that doth butter no parsnips.
No, but
what the heck are you talking about, Dave?
Yeah, nobody knows that.
No,
but
nobody.
Christian Hördbiber 1:44.468. We said that's a time that's not going to be meaningful come the end of the qualifying session. Just as a benchmark, the last time we were qualifying here in the dry was a 1:36.236 by a certain Mr. Ernst Kirchmeier, who's not here, but Roger Groels is here, who had a 1:36.313 as we go on board with Thomas Gostner, who was part of that, had a 1:36.789. So all the stats coming your way from statistician.
Yes. All the information, all the statistics brought to you in association with Clean Easy Lavatory Brushes. Otherwise known as Nico. Bless him. Always there, always there. 1:42.132. Eric Chung, quickest man at the moment. as Nico says, don't read too much into these early times. It's Eric Chung, Christian Herdvipper, then Willem van der Vorm. We're expecting to see a time from Thomas Gostner and from the likes of Roger Grols and Peter Christensen and Christian Kinch and Alexander Nussbaumer, who I must mention that when we were in Valencia just 3 weeks ago, I think it was, we were waxing lyrical about Alexander Nussbaumer and his car, which we felt at the time might be a continuation of the championship winning car last year. It is Alexander's car, but he's completely reliveried it in the team's colours. Right,
well, there you go.
So,
and there we go on board with Thomas Gostner as he takes us around this very circuit here at Misano. Marco Simoncelli is the man whose track is named after. And there is that stadium section which Thomas Gostner runs through. Triple right-hander and then those two left-handers. There is Pedentry on the left-hand side. You can see him going very far to the outside, basically taking the curbs, the AstroTurf, some of the grandstand, everything that he can find underneath his Pirelli P0. He puts it on a 149, 145, and you can tell that's not very meaningful. But here, this lap, maybe more of it. Had a little bit of a sideways moment through that.
Bit of understeer.
Yeah, through that chicane. Right, left, right-hander. And there is that first extended hairpin. It's a double apex right-hander, depending on how you take it, but it's certainly almost a hairpin if you combine the two turns together. And John Dillon, also not at race pace, dare I say, so that first purple sector
lulled us into a false sense of security.
If there ever was one, but and you can see it's only 8.5 minutes remaining, so that 20 minutes
it's going to be very tight, isn't it?
Ticks off very quickly, and obviously now all the drivers are out on track and setting personal bests without exception, as well as overall bests mixed in between.
Thing is, the consequences of qualifying, Nico, are of course not only the position you find yourself upon in the grid when it comes to the race, but it's very, very tight at the top as well, with just 1 point between Axel Sardigan and Manuel Gostner in terms of the Drivers' Championship points. And, dare I say it, of course, qualifying actually carries a points award as well, Nico, for the very fastest lap.
Absolutely, and we already saw in Valencia in the first round how competitive, especially the Coppa Shell is, where we had in qualifying 7 or 8 drivers within 4 or 5 tenths, and you can tell basically here one mistake in a turn can drop you from P1 to P7 because it's so close and competitive. And we saw John Dillon come into the pits with 7.5 minutes. That's troublesome.
Yes.
Roger Grols, maybe troublesome, but only for the top times for the moment, is going for it. And he is taking the final turn, approaching the timing line, and we will see where he will end up in but a few moments. He's currently P10, and that will improve to P3. 3/10 of the Willem van der Vorm time. Christian Kinch behind him. There is the Swede who just put it on to P4, and expect more changes to come as we go back on board with Thomas Gostner, I believe.
You spotted that absolutely pinpoint accurate. We are on board with Thomas Gostner, who's set fastest of anyone through Sector 1, so we keep our eyes on the 161 car. Now, Roger Grols has just gone to third fastest. Axel Sartingen, who's currently leading the points, has gone to fourth fastest. But it is Willem van der Vorm at the top of the chart at the moment with a 1:37.738. Personal best from Thomas Gostner now through Sector 2. Now, you don't necessarily need to have every sector purple to get the fastest time, but it will be very interesting. Yep, sorry. My wife complains about me doing a Christian Horner all the time in terms of my knees and ankles going, but it's the excitement, you know, of this qualifying, Nico. Willem van der Vorm at the top. Von Skeltermar goes second fastest. The final 6 minutes are going to be a flurry of activity, Nico, I would suggest, as Willem van der Vorm has gone not only P1, but he's now gone even quicker in Sector 1 and Sector 2 as Thomas Gostner crosses the timing line and improves 2 places, goes up to P6. Willem van der Vorm is on a flyer here, Nico. I think his 1:37.738 will be bested, and is bested by a huge lump of time. 4:77.
Absolutely.
So he now goes top with a 1:37.261. The next closest driver is this man, Von Skeltermar, with 6/10 to find to put himself on a trajectory with Willem van der Vorm, We could see Manuela Gosner keeping out of the way there as von Skeldermaar was on a hot lap and is on a hot lap. Personal best through Sector 1 and Sector 2, which would see an improvement personally. Would it be enough to vault him ahead of Christian Kinch, who's now gone second fastest, and Willem van der Vorm, who is fastest? We are about to find out because von Skeldermaar entering the stadium section of the circuit as now Axel Sartingen gives us a 1:36.799, so he is the fastest driver currently. Here comes Skeldermaar then, heading for the timing line now. He's P4 at the moment, and as he crosses the timing line, he improves 1 place and goes to P3. Nico.
4 minutes, 52 seconds remaining, and we have lots of action on our timing screen, and we have got a red flag.
Whoa! Why is that? Why is that?
We've got a red flag, and that means 4 minutes, 48 seconds. That is gonna be tricky. I mean, it is enough time to go out
1 lap.
and have 1 lap. If you're very early on the queue, it's
That's
2
right.
laps, and
Now,
there is Manuela Gosner.
I mentioned we could see Manuela Gosner keeping out of the way of von Skeldermaar. It would appear that Manuela has got an issue.
Yeah, and we're talking about Manuela Gosner, who was pole setter and winner of the race, race 2 in Valencia, and I mean, she got the car going again, but I mean, that certainly doesn't look like a conventional getting out of the way. There must have been some issue with the car, whatever it was.
Well,
it prompted race control to throw out the red flag, and you might question, well, you know, she got the car going again, but even though, I mean, it is on a straight and visibility is good, but still, you just don't want to risk qualifying with the car stationary, because you have to throw out the yellow flag, and that means nobody can do a reasonable time because they have to slow down.
Absolutely.
So effectively, by throwing out the red flag, you give the drivers another chance to put in a time, because with the car there would have been no chance. You could have go round, but you couldn't improve on your timing. So 4 minutes, 48 seconds. Give it 2 minutes for an out lap, and that means you will have 2 more attempts at besting your previous best time.
We've got a minute before the session will restart, Nico. There it is, confirmation on the screen. Session will restart at 19:18. It is now 09:17. 09:18, I meant to say, not 19:18. So we are less than a minute away from the session restarting. I predict it's going to become very busy because there are drivers that are out of position, Nico.
Oh, absolutely. And this countdown, and that means there is no time to lose. Everybody who can come to the end of pit lane, and I think we will see in a moment that, with the exception maybe of John Dillon, who already had an issue earlier, so we saw that, and there is proof of our concept.
Look who's at the front of the queue. Is that Willem van der Vorm?
That is Willem van der Vorm, and there we just zoomed past Christian Kinch.
Eric Chung there.
Eric Chung there.
And actually, if we wave at you now, you might be able to see us. Put your hands in the air and wave like you just don't care, because those things that look like portable lavatories is where we're situated, Nico, in our studio. Studio sounds very glamorous.
Indeed, yeah. But, I mean, the audience already saw us on camera, so they know how glamorous it is. When we're there, it's always glamorous. And now we're going green again. 4 minutes, 48 seconds. Time is counting down. Last piece of advice for those last few moments. There is Thomas Gosner going by. It's going to be frantic. It's going to be furious. It's going to be fast. How fast is it going to be? Mr. Willem van der Vorm, you're the first one to answer that question, potentially.
Now, Manuela Gosner, you can see there, who is right behind Christian Kinch. She is one of those drivers that I said is out of position because she's currently 10th fastest. Well, Manuela, of course, has some intermittent issue with the car meant the red flag coming out. She will need and want to improve significantly. So these 4 minutes that are remaining are going to be utterly critical for the likes of Manuela Gosner and John Dillon and Peter Christensen and Eric Chung. And there is Manuela Gosner, having already got past Christian Kinch. She knows that she's going to use this lap as an installation. It's what we call it, the kind of a warm-up lap, Nico. Then going to absolutely go for it in the next lap. And because you run out of time so very quickly, you can ill afford to even make a momentary mistake, Nico, because you've got to tick every single box of the 16 turns around this circuit.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, there's two issues right now. The one is track space.
Oh no!
Well, she may decide to let the other cars go, but obviously...
Looking for clear tarmac, but I don't think so, Nico.
I hope that that's not a recurring thing, and I dare say that you may be right that that
Never.
is not intentional, and it's exactly the same spot on the track once again.
It is.
So, well, I hope for the sake of everybody else. I fear Manuel Agosta's qualifying is royally ruined, but I hope for the sake of everybody else that she doesn't come to a standstill again.
Which, you know, she's doing everything she can. Well, actually, perhaps we were both wrong, because the car seems to increase in speed now. Perhaps she was just looking for clear tarmac. We can conjecture all we want. We're not in the cockpit with Manuela, which is a great shame, to be honest. She's often said, I'd like you as a co-driver, Dave.
Oh, no.
No, she didn't say that at all. But, yeah, we will see. Let's hope that Manuela does get going with clear tarmac ahead of her, because that's what she was, I think, what she was looking for. We are looking currently at Eric Chung. Where is Eric in the order at the moment? P8 in terms of qualifying, which would be a fourth row within class start for Eric Chung. It's starting and leading with a 136.799, 4.5 tenths ahead of this man, Willem van der Vorm, in the 182 car, who is currently P2. But look, Willem van der Vorm has put a purple sector in through sector 1. He had a bit of a wobble through that turn, and that may have cost him some valuable 100s. Let's see, when we get the sector 2 time, yes, that now is not purple. It's blue, which means it's personal best, so it's still very, very good. But I think Willem lost just a little bit of momentum. But let's see. The right royal fight between Axel Sardigan and Willem van der Vorm. And joining that fight now is Christian Kinch, who's done exactly the same as Willem van der Vorm, with purple section through sector 1 and overall through sector 1 and personal best through sector 2. Here comes Willem van der Vorm to chase that 136.799, and he's done a 136.866. Here comes Christian Kinch. He's next in the queue. Now Christian's going to be able to go again, as indeed is Willem van der Vorm. I can see from another monitor we have in the screen that Manuela Kostner is out of the car, Nico, so she's not going to be doing any improving.
No, she doesn't, and Christian Kinch doesn't do an improvement here, but he's got one more go, and pretty much everybody who filed out of pit lane will have the remainder of their current lap plus one more, or in the case of Christian Kinch, the one that he just started, 48 seconds, and we still got improvement. Willem van der Vorm, first sector, again, very, very good. Eric Chung, first sector, very, very good. Thomas Kostner, absolute blistering best first sector, 2.5 tenths, almost 3 tenths better than Axel Sartingen's current provisional pole time. Expect the order on the left-hand side of your screen to change. Willem van der Vorm giving it absolutely everything, running as far off the track as he dares without compromising his ability for that lap to count. I think he was just close enough to the white line for Claudio Garavini, our race director, to let that go. Again, you know, really going far and far.
No, that has, I'm sorry, Nico, the trajectory through that almost double apex has cost him.
Yeah, definitely, but there is still, you know, it's still on. He's currently P2, but there are other drivers challenging. This is gonna be frantic. Checkered flag is out. Willem van der Vorm, P2 for the time being. Will he be attacked?
Roger Grols now. Look at Roger Grols. Overall best through sector 1, personal best through sector 2. Roger Grols then hugging the inside. We watch him through the final sequence of turns here in Misano then, as he will be heading for the timing line, hoping to go from P8 to a position much more reflective of Roger Grols' enormous driving talent and racing talent as he crosses the timing line. He improves one place. Now also out there on track is Axel Sardigan, who is actually going quicker than he went. Now, he's timed it absolutely perfectly, Nico, because he has got himself out there and he crossed the timing line just with literally seconds to go. So he's got traffic ahead of him, unfortunately, and I think that's Peter Christensen. Indeed, it is. That's going to do for Axel Sardigan's lap, I'm sorry to say. I mean, he was already P1, Nico, but he was obviously targeting an improvement if he possibly could. But what will be critical for Axel Sardigan is the fact that not only does he take pole position, because I don't think there's anybody going to trouble him now. But he also takes that crucial pole position point, Nico. So going into the race, he elevates his lead in the Drivers' Championship by 1 point.
So he doubles it effectively.
He doubles it, yes. Well, now, there is Giorgio Sonaciotto, who is driver coach to Manuela Gosner, who's just trying to reassure Manuela, and you can see she's, the body language says frustration, doesn't it, Nico?
Yeah, indeed, but okay, I mean, she is down in P11. That means she will have to do a lot of overtaking in the race. Axel Sarting on the other side of the spectrum is P1, as we have our qualifying results done and dusted. Willem van der Worm, incidentally, his last lap was quick. He was only 38 1/1000ths of the Axel Sarting, and so that one mistake that you identified, the sideways moment, that was the difference for pole position. Thomas Gosner, very good showing P3, von Skeltemer P4, Alexander Nussbaumer P5, Christian Kinch will be quite happy with P6. Axel Sarting will be quite happy with P1, but he'll say, well, it's a race and it's going to be difficult and it's going to be a hard fight, but I want to win. As he always wants, and rightfully so. We said Coppa Shell is close and competitive. The first 8 drivers within 7.5 tenths.
And they are Axel Sarting, Willem van der Worm, Thomas Gosner, von Skeltemer, Alexander Nussbaumer, Christian Kinch, Christian Herd-Vipper and Roger Grols. Then just outside the top 8, Eric Chung and Peter Christensen, because they are P9 and P10. You can see the first page of our qualifying results from Coppa Shell, with Coppa Shell AM qualifying to follow momentarily. So Axel Sarting then with pole position, and the very, very valuable point that he takes for that pole position. Manuela Gosner and John Dillon both had their issues during that qualifying session, which sees them P11 and P12. So both of those drivers with quite some target of overtaking to do during the course of the race to come a little bit later today. Stand by, hold on to your hats, because Coppa Shell AM qualifying is coming next, live from Misano.
And we're but a few moments away from Coppa Shell AM going on the track, as we see some driver preparations, and it's not a long distance. Mutlu Tasev here, focusing, concentrating, looking at us, giving us a thumbs up. Perfect, that's the way to go. Focus and attention to your audience. Perfect combination, and thank you very much. It was 20 minutes of Coppa Shell. It's going to be 20 minutes of Coppa Shell AM in just a few moments. Here, one of our competitors, Mazzola, who will take part in Trofeo Pirelli, and that's a precursor of what's going to come after Coppa Shell AM. Not quite now, but here is our pole setter for Coppa Shell for the race in the early afternoon. That is Axel Sarting, leader in Coppa Shell, pole setter in Coppa Shell Hertha Racing. The 1-2-1 are off. Peter Christensen. You can see how the steering input and the forces of physics battling each other, and the driver doing his level best or her level best in some cases to control the car and keep it on the grey stuff. Thomas Gosner, very good qualifying session from him. P3 in the race later on. Best of the Gosners, which is an intra-family affair always, and a good challenge. The father prevails in this qualifying session. He'll be starting from row 2. Christian Kinch. The returning Christian Kinch after 2 years where he didn't do regular participation in the Ferrari Challenge Europe, but he is back as a full season entry this year, and he is showing that he's forgot nothing. There is the Manuela Gosner car, which didn't perform as we have seen previously, so the team will certainly have a look at what can be done and what was the issue for qualifying, and I'm sure they will have the car ready in prime position for the race later on. Some stickering going on to the Eliseo Dono car, and he's doing the stickering himself. He obviously the winner and dominator in Valencia last time. And I think that means it's got his birthday.
I think I would concur, Nico. And dare I say it, significantly younger than you.
Well, he's a lot quicker, fitter, and in many, many ways a lot more Italian too. So, although I think I can drink as much cappuccino as he can.
Oh, probably so.
Yeah, I think so. There is Tommy Lindros. 127. One of our entries in the Coppa Shell AM. You can identify the Coppa Shell AM drivers by the fact that they're taking part in this session, but also by the black strip across the top of the windscreen. There is our entry from Japan, Motohiko Isozaki.
He was very, very quick in free practice.
He was very quick in free practice. He was very quick in Valencia, had a very unfortunate race one after putting it on a dominant pole, and then had an incident, a coming together that cost him race one.
Yes.
And he wasn't quite up to speed on the Sunday. With a different car, we presume, so that certainly played a role.
Let's welcome back Martinez Richter.
Welcome back, Martinez Richter.
Who was missing in Valencia. And Martinez, we missed you. Always one to be reckoned with in the course of the race and also during qualifying as well. So Martinez Richter back out on the track. So some 11 cars that will take to the track for this qualifying session for Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell AM, including Stefano Marazzi. Good morning, Stefano. Good luck to you. Driving for the Rosso Corsa Racing Team and the all-yellow 488 Challenge Evo then. Biding its time in the garage, if I can be so bold as to say that, as we also look at the 172 car, driven, of course, by Giuseppe Ramelli, also a returning driver, Nico, into the Ferrari Challenge. Giuseppe, to the best of my knowledge, wasn't at Valencia.
No, he wasn't. Also, we saw Eric Prinard in the paddock yesterday, a competitor from the Coppa Shell for many, many years, and retired from the series, I believe, 4 years ago.
Yes, I think you're right.
And it was very good to see him in the paddock. We haven't had the opportunity to talk to him, but I'm sure we will set that right over the rest of the weekend. The 172 car of Giuseppe Ramelli, who you already alluded to. We've got the first 5 drivers out already on the track. 2 minutes ticked off the clock. And we just saw in Coppa Shell, as we see von Skeltema, P4 in his session, walking down the street, not singing, but looking quite chipper. We already saw in the previous session that the time ticks off very, very quickly. And setting a banker time certainly is something that can prove advantageous. Roland Herter here we are following. He's pursuing that very strategy, going out early. The Charles Pozzi GT Racing livery. Still feels like Thomas Neubauer in the car, but is Roland Herter finding levels of adhesion with his Pirelli P0s, putting the car through the paces at modest speeds for the time being, but that will change in but a few moments. Tommy Lindroth is the first to cross the timing line. We pick him up as he enters the first lap where he could theoretically put a meaningful time. We don't quite expect it that early because still the tarmac is quite cold, the tires not quite up to temperature, so probably needs another lap of Tommy Lindrothing the 488 Challenge Evo around this track before we will see meaningful, good, promising, adventurous times.
Tommy Lindrothing. There's a word or there's a phrase. Yeah, that will go down in the annals of mentions during the course of this weekend, and probably many more to come as well, because the Ferrari Challenge, we head off. Of course, to Spielberg and Le Mans and Estoril and Spa and Mugello during the course of what is a fantastic season, Nico, in prospect for the Ferrari Challenge.
Absolutely, and there you can see Tommy Lindroth is not yet trying to set a meaningful time. but he is preparing mentally and physically for the onslaught that he will put on the timing screen in just a few moments. Once he crosses the timing line, he's now entering that stadium section, which I think is really the trademark of this circuit, with this triple right-hander. He's just done the second one of those. Well, there is that almost U-turn. Now we've got the two left-handers. This one taking us towards pit entry, and the last one then takes us back onto the start-finish straight, and there we can see Mutlu Tasev, who is taking that final turn, and now it's full throttle to the timing line, and then the next lap will count. 5 minutes have ticked off our session. There is Tommy Lindroth, there is Mutlu Tasev, and you can see the car a little bit unsteady, under braking, controls it nicely. But now we can already see traffic is going to be an issue on this circuit.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is where the teams play such an important role in strategically advising the drivers when to push and when not to push, because clear tarmac is absolutely vital. We can see Martinez Richter there weaving from side to side, generating some temperature into the Pirelli P0s. And we have... what have we got? 14.5 minutes of this session remaining, which will go by like in a heartbeat, truthfully. And Mutlu Tasev then, another driver from the ML Ferrari concern, who has set a quicker than anyone through Sector 1, his Sector 1 time. Will that be meaningful? Well, of course it will, because provisionally it could put him to the top of the timing screens. He's got cars ahead of him, but far enough in the distance ahead of him where it probably won't compromise this lap. For my money, I think Tommy is going through installation lap part 2, just to get himself and the car up to speed. Although after saying that, Tommy has set quicker than anyone times through Sector 1 and Sector 2, which really shatters the illusion that I was painting of him perhaps going for another installation. He's going for it properly. So it's Mutlu Tasev then, as he's into the stadium section now, and we're looking for the times when they cross the timing line from both Tommy Lindroth and Mutlu Tasev as they head towards the line. And you can see how busy it is with cars on track now. And Tommy Lindroth momentarily P1 for Barra Motorsport with a 144.536. 144.536. Roland Hertner is P2. Pino Frascaro is P4 at the moment, but we've still got quite a number of cars to show us their times, including Boris Gideon and Stefano Marazzi and Martinez Richter, who we can see on screen now, Henrik Kamstrup, Kirk Bjervold, who of course leads the Coppa Shell AM Drivers' Championship at the moment, Mutlu Tasev and Giuseppe Romelli. Here is Martinez Richter then, returning with a vengeance, if I may say, because it's purple Sector 1, purple Sector 2. The German racing driver then for Mertel Motorsport Racing, really guiding his 488 Challenge Evo around this challenging Misano circuit with aplomb as he heads towards the timing line that has been crossed by Boris Gideon with a 141.665, which gives Boris Gideon momentarily P1, because that has been bested, as we predicted, by Martinez Richter with a 138.742.
Yeah, and that's the first sub 140 time, and that's the first time which we would consider to be relevant in the context of where we expect the times to be at the end of the session. Martinez Richter coming back just in time, and it's good to be able to announce and inform you that if you're watching this qualifying session on the stream in Germany, Austria or Switzerland, you will have the opportunity to watch the race on Sky Germany. For the first time in Coppa Shell history, we'll have the races on Sky, and for the likes of Martinez Richter and also Axel Sartingen, Boris Gideon, and everybody German-speaking on the paddock. Obviously, this will be an extra motivation to be on the Formula One broadcaster in Germany, Austria and Switzerland, and showcase their talent to the, well, the biggest audience in motorsport that there is in Germany. So
big shout out to Oliver Fendel, who will be bringing you all the action. Great guy, great friend of mine, and we are colleagues and companions, and he of course will be voicing the action, Nico.
Absolutely, and he'll be talking about the likes of Boris Gideon and Martinez Richter, both German flags for you on the screen, as if by magic they are trying to put themselves at the very front of the queue for the race later on. Boris Gideon, the first one.
P1. Now, I was saying earlier that Motohiko Isozaki was very, very impressive in free practice. He's very quietly gone about his business. He's P3 in qualifying, Nico. He is going to be one to watch today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he certainly's got the disadvantage in terms of track knowledge, as Kirk Burwald puts it on P3 for the time being. You would think that the Japanese driver has, on average, less track knowledge of the European tracks. He certainly didn't show that in Valencia, and he certainly didn't show it yet here in Misano, which is a credit to his racecraft.
Same can be said for Kirk Bervold.
Oh, absolutely.
Kirk is currently leading the championship. The Autohaus Ulrich driver Boris Gideon is certainly leading the qualifying at the moment, with the only driver in the 136s, and he's only in the 136s by 1,000s because it's a 136.995, and Boris Gideon hoping to improve, and once again, cumulative time 102.639 is what he's looking to best, and when he crosses the timing line for Sector 2, unfortunately he does not achieve that. Here is Martinus Richter, who's also not going as quick as he has gone previously. He is currently second fastest. It's Motohiko Isozaki who's third fastest. Then it's Kirk Bervold, Giuseppe Romelli, Henrik Kamstrup, Mutlu Tarzev, Roland Hurtner, Tommy Lindroth, Pino Frascara, and Stefano Marazzi. That's the order at the moment, with 9.5 minutes of this qualifying session remaining, Nico.
Absolutely. Motohiko Isozaki, very good first sector as we keep our German train going with Martinus Richter and Boris Gideon quite neatly and friendly, keeping it a great distance for our cameras, always almost couple skating around the Misano circuit. They're joining the fray and joining the picture is the 1-2-4 car, and that is Kirk Burwald. So triple yellow, triple skating, 1, 2, 3 on the track, 1, 2, 3 on the timing screen. Perfect harmony, perfection, just beautiful. Motohiko Isozaki will have something to say about that. He's not in a yellow car, and he is not in picture, but he's trying to break that almost magical symmetry.
And the really rather beautiful words that were almost tear-jerking in terms of their colour. Not.
Yellow. Yellow.
Yellow. Boris Gideon then, 136.995. He's not going to beat that this time because his cumulative target time is a 102.639. After saying that, he's pulled some time out of Sector 2, Nico. So there's me saying he's not going to better his 136.995. Actually, if he nails every corner of the final sector, he could do it. Not sure that sequence of turns was to his liking, but Boris Gideon is absolutely trying here. You take that kink almost full chat flat and now brake. The suspension at the front of the car really, really compresses under braking as he heads towards the timing line, having taken that corner now. And it's a 136.989, so by 6 1,000ths, Nico. He is quicker. But what that does do, it proves that you haven't necessarily got to nail every sector of the track to be right at the top.
No, and actually, if you're being really honest, you can't, because setup, as we all have said many times before, is a bit of a compromise, and you've got a very technical first sector, more of a flowing second sector with the long straights included, and then the stadium section obviously is very technical and very slow. So you kind of have to make a compromise in terms of top speed and grip level, in terms of how much wing and downforce you apply to your car setup. So you kind of have to make the compromise anyway. In the meantime, Martinus Richter was P2, then Kirk Berwald and Motohiko Isozaki both leapfrogged him. So it's Boris Gideon, Kirk Berwald, Motohiko Isozaki with 6 minutes and 44 seconds. Those are our top four. Giuseppe Romelli, a little bit of the pace. Maybe we expect him to improve on his current position. He was in the pits just now, but he's come out and is going for it once again.
6.5 minutes then, as the yellow stream of colour remains as we watch Martinus Richter, who is currently P4, with a time of 138.158. Here then is the Kirk Berwald car driving for Kessel Racing. A 137.945 was what he delivered to put him P2 in the chart of qualifying. At the moment, this does not look like it's going to be a time that will necessarily And I think he's going to indicate and go into the pit lane anyway. So he's going to rest the car, presumably. Will he go again, or will he think, I'm going to bank that P2 and keep the tyre longevity for the race, Nico?
Yeah, I think without having the inside knowledge from within the cockpit or the team radio, I think that is the way the strategy is very likely going to be. That's the 172 car of Giuseppe Romelli, just completed his outlap, and you can already see the car aggressive through those first turns, braking zone. He is going for it. As we said, P7 right now is not going to be satisfactory for him. He is going to go and going on board. That is a great shot. You can see how he's battling, how he's taking the entire width of the track. This double right-hander is basically one turn as Giuseppe Romelli takes it full throttle or at maximum speed that he can. Now there is the first short straight, first sector on our timing screen. That was decent, 7/10 off the pace, but I think he'll have to go for another one to really challenge the top runners as we go into that second sector again.
Through that second sector, as Nico said earlier on, he's currently P7, which is not necessarily where we would expect Giuseppe to be. He's in this stadium section now, which I know is one of your favourite parts of this Misano circuit, Nico.
Yeah, absolutely. No question about it. There is the final turn. Again, you can already see on the curbs how much rubber has been laid there. So grip levels in the dry are very good. We don't expect any rain to come this weekend. We do expect Giuseppe Romelli to now go for a very meaningful lap, but should it rain, those curbs are going to be off limits because they're going to be so slippery with the rubber laid on the curbs. So all of a sudden you look at lap times which are 10 seconds or more slower just because the track becomes so much more narrow. Again, not expecting that this weekend, expecting pretty good weather. Expecting Giuseppe Romelli to improve. We'll have a look at his first sector. Actually, no, it's 7/10 off the pace once again.
That's a big ask, isn't it, to find 7/10?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, he's currently 2.6 seconds off the pace in terms of his lap time, so there is still potential for a personal improvement.
Love this split screen where we can see the driver at work inside the car and what those inputs that he's delivering actually go to and do for the shot that we can see with the car out there on track. Great work by our team in production in terms of giving us that wonderful opportunity to view Giuseppe hard at work inside the car and the car actually out on track as well. The Giuseppe Romelli car then with the screen split with Giuseppe inside the 488 Challenge Evo as well. Now sector 2 was a personal best, which is a slight improvement, but as Nico has indicated or intimated even, maybe this is not going to be the lap for Giuseppe to really target that 136.989. He's heading towards the timing line now, and it's going to be in the 138s, I think, or maybe even 139.295. Look, lost a lot of time in that second one, Nico.
Yeah, it is an improvement still in terms of time, personally, not in terms of position, but you kind of get the feeling he doesn't quite have the rhythm, or he's not one with the car yet, but that can still change. We still got 2 minutes of this quali session remaining. We've got a race, we've got another race day today, so Giuseppe Romelli, knowing him, he'll battle through it and find every 100th and 1000th that he can do, and his team will do the same in terms of optimizing and getting the car perfect for their driver. Martin Richter, currently P4, looked extremely quick at the beginning of the session. P4 is not bad by any stretch of the imagination. It's not where he wants to be. Where does he want to be? I guess P1 would suit him, and nothing else really. He's got this lap, which I don't think is going to be an improvement, but he's got one more bite at the apple. Well, I said no big improvement. He puts it up into P2. 8/10. Is that something he can still find? Maybe, maybe not. We'll find out. Oh, no, I think that answered the question already.
And Kirk Beerbold, who I know through one of the other monitors that we have here in our position here, being almost in the pit lane, Kirk Beerbold has parked the car. So P3 for Kirk Beerbold at the moment. Motohiko Isasaki is another one that has felt that he's delivered the maximum he can. So too Boris Gideon. So Stefano Marazzi that we're watching right now for Rosso Corsa, who through Sector 1 has gone quicker than anyone. Sector 2, a personal best. So Stefano Marazzi then is absolutely targeting an improvement here. Target time 1:36.989, and across the timing line goes with a 1:38.462, which means a non-improvement in terms of his grid position or achievements within qualifying, and can go again, although I rather think the entry to that little chicane sequence there was not optimized. So the order is Boris Gideon, Martinus Richter, Kirk Beervold, Motohiko Isasaki, Henrik Kamstrup, Stefano Marazzi, the car and driver that we're watching at the moment. Then it is Giuseppe Romelli, Pino Frescaro, Tommy Lindroth, Roland Hurtner, and Mutlu Tazev. And the checkered flag out, I rather think that we're not going to see any improvements, Nico. I think we're pretty much done with the order, if I can be honest with you.
Yeah, the only one with a personal improvement in Sector 1 was Henrik Kamstrup. The 113 car, there is David Gostner, who looks pretty chuffed. And good for him. Henrik Kamstrup, again, the only car who I could see still on trajectory for an improvement based on the first sector. We'll keep an eye on that, and we do keep an eye on him indeed, and there he is. The 113 car, that is the very Henrik Kamstrup. First sector very good, second sector still very good. We're not talking about pole position. That ship has sailed, and it has sailed into the harbor port marina of Boris Gideon, but Henrik Kamstrup, currently P5, is still battling for a front row start, certainly a second row start. He's still giving it every little bit he can. 2 more turns to go, 1 more turn to go. Stadium section done, final turn. Left-hander onto the curbs, full throttle, 1:36.989. That's not it. An improvement? No.
You built that so nicely, and then it all came to naught. And I'm sorry, because you tried so hard to deliver the excitement of Henrik Kamstrup vaulting up the order. And unfortunately, the final sector did it for him, and you, and us.
But he gave us some good entertainment until the very late stages. There is Motohiko Isuzaki's car, the best of the non-yellow cars.
Yes, yes. Very good point.
In his green traditional livery, another green livery here. Couldn't quite make out what car that was. If you were looking at something else in that picture, you were looking at the wrong thing. Sorry.
Yes. Part
of the picture of Roland Hurter's car being pushed back to his garage.
I'd quit now while you're ahead. Just personal advice there.
Boris Gideon, well done for his pole position. Martinus Richter alongside for Coppa Shell AM. There is Lee Sudano, and he will go out and as he waves to his
adoring fans.
And there is Manuela Gostner, who we saw with her issues with the car. She's still explaining how she experienced that qualifying session.
And that's where teams are critical, isn't it? Because they have to translate the feedback that's given by their drivers in terms of performance and handling of cars, and exactly how the setup is going to be optimized. And there is a very happy Axel Sardingen with his pole position award. I love those, Nico. Beautiful pieces of trophy they are. So here's confirmation of our Coppa Shell AM qualifying result then, with Boris Gideon P1 ahead of Martinus Richter and Kirk Beervold completing the triple yellow coloured 1, 2, 3. Motohiko Isasaki going to be a danger man from P4. Henrik Kamstrup P5. Stefano Marazzi is P6. Giuseppe Romelli P7. Pino Frescaro. Good qualifying. Pino P8. Tommy Lindroth P9. Roland Hurtner P10. And then Mutlu Tazev for the Emil Frey organization, taking P11 in the 134 car. Will give you page 2 of the classification to confirm Mutlu Tazev's position in qualifying. So Boris Gideon going to be very, very interesting during the course of the race to come. This afternoon we had lunch with Boris Gideon last time out in Valencia. He's P3 in the Drivers' Championship at the moment. Good opportunity for good points haul for Boris Gideon, and he's already started that, of course, by banking 1 point for pole position within the last. Nico.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously pole position is the best position you can get. Now he's going to be right behind some Shell drivers, so the clear tarmac ahead of him afforded to the Coppa Shell poles that is not going to be afforded to him. He will have to find his space. But that's going to make everything very interesting. That is the Eliseo Dono car. Once again, look at nothing else but the wonderful machinery provided from Maranello. As we have 10 minutes, as near as makes no difference, for the Trofeo Pirelli qualifying to get underway. There in the foreground or in the center is that ship-shaped new pit building, which wasn't here the last time we were here, or it was just being constructed. Looks very nice and modern because it is.
Yes, that will be the reason.
Apparently.
Because it is. Yes, we're not situated in that new building. We are situated kind of at the other end of the pit lane as we get some super slow-mos of some of the qualifying action from our Coppa Shell qualifying. Both the Shell drivers and the Shell AM drivers who've been out on track for their qualifying session. As Nico quite rightly said, Trofeo Pirelli qualifying is up next.